Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for another season review. Going to be looking back at Middlesbrough's season, which promised a fair amount actually in the early weeks, but did in the end regress. But still, reasonable top half finish. This all after a bit of a squeaky one last season as Middlesbrough went from Pulis and having parachute payments and some saleable assets to Jonathan Woodgate and neither of the above, really. And it was at the end of the season that Mr. Neil Warnock was kind of parachuted in to come and help. There begins the Warnock rescue. That's obviously post-lockdown, the first lockdown there, 23rd of June. Have a look at the top there. That's the table when Warnock comes in. Boro on 41 points there. I'm guessing Wigan hadn't had their they haven't had their 12-point deduction yet at that stage. Heartbreakingly, that's going to come. Help Middlesbrough a little bit, but they do fight their way out of it on their own grounds, basically, and a 17th place finish there. You can see in those last 8 games, 12 points picked up. A sort of classic Warnock job, really. Straight in. We know what he's going to do. He has players eating out of his hands. Great man manager. Obviously can't use the transfer market because he's outside the window when he arrives. But you know, with his experience in game tweaking and his ability to just get players up for it, simplify football, he got the reaction that Steve Gibson, the Boro owner, wanted. And here comes year 2 for Middlesbrough without parachute payments now. And there is the summer business. Now, we spoke a little bit about saleable assets. There's no, who have they sold? Aidan Flint went for some big money, didn't he? I suppose Adama Traore propped things up maybe even before that. And the well had run dry in terms of recruitment churn. I'm always talking about it's okay to sell. You've got to keep that money flowing and keep sort of liquidity going in the slightly dubious financial landscape that is the Championship. But not much in terms of high value selling stuff there. Outgo, Pears, Friend, Shotton, Clayton, Ayala, Mayas, Walker on loan, Rudy Gested. Looks a lot to me like that's cost cutting, and a lot of it back from Karanka, Pulis eras. So a lot of legacy contracts where it was just, okay, off the balance sheet and on we go to the next. Chuba Akpom comes in, 2.7 million, we think, so a bit of an expensive one. Grant Hall comes in on a free centre-half. Pat Roberts, I think he was there back in the last season, wasn't he, on loan. The kind of bit of an enigma, Patrick Roberts. There's definitely a player in there, but whichever manager can get it out of him, well, as you can probably tell, Warnock's not going to this season. Bettinelli on a loan. Sammy Morsey, that's a decent one. Proper Warnock-type player there. Again, I've used the term pillaged from the carcass of the Wigan administration. So a little bit of a tweak and some players coming in. I'm sure if you'd said to Warnock that he had an Adama Traore-type figure that was going to raise a big sum of money, he would have brought in a few more players, I would suggest. But first window, away he goes, and away go Boro. And it's a really, really nice start, isn't it? You can see yet another manager of the month for Neil Warnock. Obviously, he holds the record for those in the Championship. Just one defeat in 11. And you can see that that's the very first game of the season. Many a team's going to come a cropper at Watford away. They scored 59 points at Vicarage Road this season. And then 10 unbeaten after that. Boro just on the edges of the playoffs, given that they drew 6 of those games. You can see Reading way at the top there with 7 wins. Did them in their first 8 games, in fact. But really decent start. And I guess that's what Warnock does, doesn't he? He takes it and immediately you're looking at it as a viable, even if they're outside of the playoffs, so will they go on the Warnock run at the end of the season. He always seems to do a winning streak at some point in the season. Doesn't happen this season, spoiler alert. But good start for Boro, manager of the month. And I mean, look at it, big picture, the comparison from last season where other than a run around Christmas time, which was a big outlier for Woodgate, wasn't it? They were in relegation trouble and in relegation form for a lot of the season, certainly bottom six form for a lot of the season. On we go. Can add on another load of games up into January. We're over halfway at this point. They're hanging in there in 7th. I think there was a little bit of a turning point, and I'm sure Boro fans will see it as a sliding doors moment. Look at that first game at home to Norwich. Now remember, at that point, Norwich are just getting to the top of the league and just going to start to exert their authority. Boro had a penalty in that game, which was a slip over and a double kick. They don't score it, obviously, and Norwich then get a penalty 10 minutes later, score it and win the game. You just wonder whether Boro's momentum would have, if they could have knocked down Norwich at that point, whether the momentum would build. I've written down no draws as well on the left there. You just see the inconsistency starting to slip in and the defeats starting to come. Remember, there'd only been one in the first 11. So it's almost like they went from drawing to too many games to neither nor. But that's not bad at halfway, is it? 39 points. Okay, it's just over halfway. But if you doubled 39 points and got to 78, you're making the playoffs, give or take. Might skewed maths there, given it's just over halfway. Little bit of a gap opening up. And look at that top 6. Bournemouth, Reading, Watford, Brentford, Swansea, Norwich. Only Barnsley are going to pierce that in the second half of the season. What's turned out to be a slightly higher than average playoff total. 10-year average is 72. It was 77 that was 6th place. 72 to get above 7th place. And 6th place this year was 77. So a little bit of a high tide that Boro had to cope with. Here's some January tweaks. Look at the departures first. Messing around with goalkeepers there. Mayas, Stojanovic. You just couldn't quite get things settled in net. Could he, Nathan Wood? Patrick Roberts, that experiment done. Interesting one at the bottom there. Lewis Wing, 25, came through. Central midfield, a good set play guy. I don't know. I think he can contribute something in the Championship. Did well on loan at Rotherham, but hey, who am I to tell Warnock? I think he knows a player by now, doesn't he? In come Jordan Archer's goalkeeping cover. And a little bit of back in here. Yannick Bolasie has obviously been a very expensive player in his time, 31 now. Wonder if they can get him next season. Contract is up, I believe. Certainly going to be expecting a pay cut, Mr. Bolasie, I suspect, from that big, I think it's over 30 million quid he went from Palace to Everton to back in the day. Darnell Fisher, that's a Warnock player, 26, can play fullback either side. Naskins Cabano, well, he's on loan. Can they get him? I don't know. And then a couple of Warnock gambles down the bottom there. Duncan Watmore, that's been a really good one. Non-contract and then signed on a free. Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, whatever issues he had at Cardiff, we'll brush under the carpet. But he had, Warnock was the manager at Cardiff when Mendez-Lang was really contributing to a sort of promotion season there. So he's starting to build the squad now. He's having to rely a little bit on loans, but you wonder if he can get a couple of those players. And you think after the next window in summer, it will properly look like Warnock's team, particularly up front in this second half of the season. He's going to be very vocally unhappy with his striking options. And remember, Warnock at times, we've seen his clubs have 5 or 6 strikers. He loves a bit of competition. He loves some options to get him a goal. And I don't feel that he felt he had them this season at Boro. Up and down. Indeed, it is inconsistent, isn't it? Dropping to 8th place now. Look at the table, and Barnsley have now gone on their run. Watford and Norwich are mid-run, and Norwich have finished a big winning streak. They're miles ahead at the top there, particularly Norwich. Reading are going to make the slip ultimately because Bournemouth are now about to embark probably a couple of games into their winning streak as well. And Boro just lost in the shuffle, really. As I said, Warnock loves a winning streak. Remember that Cardiff 8 wins on the trot at the end of the season. He's done that before, hasn't he, Warnock? But they just didn't get that normal streak, and they were left behind, and you can see there 9 games to go, a 5-point gap. Barnsley and Bournemouth are not going to let up, and bad news for Reading because there was quite the distance in the end between those teams. And this is where Warnock's been very, very honest about, his team's not scoring goals and maybe looking ahead to next season. There's the final run in. Disappointing. Look, 1 point in 5 and playoffs kind of out of the question now, isn't it? And with my high tide, low tide argument, look at that table. I mean, my metric is how many points does it take to get into the playoffs? Well, it would have only been 70 this season because Reading dropped to 69 there without winning any of their last sort of 5. Cardiff had a good run. QPR came from way behind to get into 9th. And Boro, despite 7 points in the last 3, they're going to finish on 64 and 10th position, which I would suggest, big picture, if you're looking at the whole pattern, as in, and I'm going right back, Monk to Pulis, and then playoffs the next season and losing in the playoffs, and then Pulis out. Oh, no, sorry. Playoffs the first season and losing, and then Pulis missed out the next season, didn't they? Losing streak at the end of the season, and then Woodgate and now Warnock. You would think that's gone a bit like that, and they're now trending up again, and they want to be the fastest losers, the best of the have-nots. They're battling against the non-parachute teams, and if a parachute team comes down now and doesn't make the most of that extra broadcast money, Boro are going to want to be there to pounce. But 10th place from wherever it was they were last season and languishing in a relegation battle, it's a step up, and Boro fans are going to want them to make the next step and have a proper playoff push next season under a manager that knows only too well how to do it. Here is my summary. So it was Warnock's first window, wasn't it? And now he's going to try and make the squad look like his. He's going to be going into his third window going forward as we go into July really. And that's when the team's going to start looking like a Warnock team. Strong home form, tight defence. And it was a good start, wasn't it? We were much extolling the virtues of Boro. Hard place to go under Warnock, hard place to score goals. And I don't know, it's almost like he tweaked something to try and stop drawing, I guess. And that made it go the other way, and they became a little bit inconsistent. You wonder if they'd kept that sort of first 11 games really form up. Although would they have fallen into what Stoke and maybe Millwall have fallen into, a little bit too pragmatic. Not the wins in the end never come. The wins did come. You can see their inconsistencies. The wins did come, but so, by God, did the defeats. And it was a bit spotty, wasn't it? Back and forth. Lack of goals. And we know that Britt Assombalonga and Ashley Fletcher are going to be available. Warnock does not fancy them. And by God, Steve Gibson's probably having nightmares about those. 15 million and 7 million for the pair of them. Out they go. Will he stick with Chuba Akpom? I think there's a big link with Famara Jeju. Well, we'll come on to what's going to happen next season. First half of the season, 7th. Second half of the season, 14th, if I've done my research properly in terms of going against the other teams in 23 game samples there. So you can see a clear drop-off from first half of the season to second half of the season. Set up for Warnock's farewell. Who am I to talk about Warnock's farewell? How old is he? 72? Can he have a good promotion crack and then retire? We thought that's what he would do at Cardiff, but here we are 4 or 5 years later and he's still going. He's never stopping, is he? For goodness sakes. And again, third transfer window. And what is he going to be looking at? Strikers. We'll talk about some players. There's a tweet I want to read out. In fact, let me read it out now. This is from Rise Football View. Very good start to the season. Fell away in the middle, losing to Rotherham, Preston, Blackburn, Birmingham, cost of player spot. McNair, Howson, Watmore been the best players. So there are things to build on there. I think he needs a goalkeeper permanently. He's gone with Betton. I think Archie was playing quite a few games at the end of the season. We'll see how that transpires. I suspect he'll drop one in. But Morsey, Hall, McNair, Howson, Watmore. Will he get Mendes Lang going? Can he get Cabano back? Balassi full-time? And you start to build a picture. a couple of youngsters coming in as well towards the end of the season. And you can see where I think it's going to go next season. So let me know what you think in the comments. That is my Boro season review. I think for me, it's got to be a thumbs up, but a kind of one like that. Big picture to jump up to 10th. It's now what they go on to do in the next window and whether Warnock can still dominate in this division as he's done before, and that extra nous and experience can get Boro where they want to get. Which areas of the team need to be addressed? Let me know what you think. And as ever in the Championship, down come Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United with maybe some experienced managers and that financial bump from the parachute payments if they can be competent and make that advantage. It's hard every season, but in the dugout there is a very experienced man. So let me know in the comments. I've had my say, you now have yours. How do you feel about Middlesbrough's season this season, and what do you think is going to happen next season, and how can they facilitate an improvement? That is my Boro season review. Get going in the comments, and it's a big over and out from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button, and to be notified every time we upload, ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.